This time we're exploring an escape scenario within a hostile urban environment. The goal is for the mission to be performed with only 2 team operatives, the minimum number of people needed for a relative safe passing through entrances. As usual, this is a small reminder of theory and movements for our team members to help with their trainings, and it's based on our Hawk combat system. Do not consider today's video as a fully detailed lesson. It only addresses briefly a few things that serve as pieces of a puzzle, so expect many gaps in the explanation of what you'll see next. Also, nothing cool looking is included this time. No live rounds nor any fancy explosions. The focus is the movement techniques and strategy. Before diving into the analysis, let me explain some basic things first. The scenario has the 2 of us being an urban location and we're surrounded by unaware hostiles. We are expecting all the enemy combatants without civilians or hostages. We are required to make a swift escape, and the only way out is to push forward. Our role is to act as infantry scouts. We have infiltrated a building complex behind enemy lines. The thick walls have prevented any detection measures. We are either a diversion element tasked to cause disturbance and get the enemy's attention, or we are separated from our main unit and we're fighting our way back. In this case, we're dealing with a wide space outside the building that allows us to make big movements. The main issue with this wide space is that there isn't any other cover aside from the building itself. Stealth is required since we're so few and vulnerable. Good strategy will keep us alive, so let's dive into it. This map is consisted by the outer side of the building, the main room, the surrounding buildings, and finally our destination, a smaller room with a double staircase going up and down. Although the so-called outside is just another big room in the video, we are treating it for the training's sake as any possible open space. The targeted entrance doesn't have a door, and that's an important key for the way that we will approach the assault. This is either the result of a bombardment from air support, a mortar shell from hours or days ago, or it is done by the hostiles for easier passage. We are also not minding the bigger opening on the right side of the targeted entrance to not complicate things, so treat it as just another wall. The green area is already secure, so our focus is the entrance. It is the only potential spawning point for hostiles. The same thing applies on any entrance, especially now that we're going blind with no intel on the shape of the rooms or number of hostiles. As a rule, whatever you can see, it can see you too. Depending on the thickness of the wall, a danger zone can be determined. Anyone in the room can potentially view everything that moves within that zone, with eyes or muzzles. This zone has blind spots. It is where we need to stay while approaching the entrance. This blind spot can serve a stealthy team at a much longer distance than you might expect. Only windows and holes on the wall can complicate things. Andrew will be the number 1 movement, and I'll be the number 2 in line. The first scout has a very surgical task. I'm counting on him to react to anything popping out within a split of a second. That's why everything else befalls me as a responsibility. From grenade tossing to scanning the entrance with the cutting the pie technique. The first key point of our movement is the first stop, a little pause to communicate about how to act next. This is done at the edge of the danger zone. We're close enough to the entrance to act quickly, but we remain safe and away from enemy fire. Bear in mind that in a non-stealthy scenario, a round would be constantly hitting the entrance as we approach to suppress any tangos. Now, since there is no door, the number 2 will walk fast around the entrance at a half-circle movement to reveal the hidden room piece by piece. All communication between the 2 operatives is done by touching. He knows what techniques I use without looking at me. All I have to do is give the signal about when I'm moving out and towards what side. Something done very easily, simply by swiping my elbow on his lower neck where he doesn't wear any armor. This is the opposite side of the danger zone. Now it is reversed as you have made a danger zone for those inside. Now I'm the one with a raised rifle. In a stealthy mode, I remain undetected, so I have the upper hand since the element of surprise is at my side. I expect them, while they don't expect me. In an active shootout, as I described earlier, I scan the area with rounds instead of eyes. I would be shooting blind, but methodically. Now, since I'm showing the stealthy way, my best hope is to not meet any hostiles while scanning from outside. At any moment I meet an enemy as I'm moving the viewpoint, any stealth is compromised and the scenario completely changes. In case I do meet a tango, the combat starts and I have taken the first one out. While cutting the pie, you're actively fighting what's inside from outside without entering. The next key point is when I reach the other side and enter the opposite blind spot. This little pause under cover gives us enough space to communicate and explain what I have seen inside. Next up, I'll rejoin number 1 by cutting the pie again. This second scanning will reveal to me if there are any changes and movement inside. Movement means that things may pop out suddenly on spots that you thought were clear and safe to ignore. Now, both in a stealthy mission and during active combat, these ways of moving are meant to cause any enemies to cluster in the two corners. By securing the middle from outside, we are preparing the two remaining sides for a final storming while entering inside. Always when entering, the first priority is to secure the two blind spots that couldn't be viewed from outside, aka the corners. Especially if your stealth element hasn't been compromised with a firefight skirmish, you have to ignore any front targets upon entrance. You've already seen them and know exactly where to turn your weapon as soon as the corners are secure. In case the battle began before entering the building, then the use of hand grenades is the safest option. You can storm in later and deal with what's left standing, if anything. You're playing with extreme speeds during such an entrance. You're playing with the speed a mind needs to analyze and react. Even what side gets checked first matters. As a team, we're using a right-handed training. Everyone trains to be right-handed, and so we know what to expect from each other during action. Turning on the right side is slightly more difficult. That's why it must be attempted first. The number 2 operative can push number 1 forward and in position. Raising the rifle at the left corner is much easier, and thus it is tasked to number 2. This synchronized move will result in a two-headed monster that is able to raise a rifle towards both corners exactly at the same time. You are elite. In a Mexican standoff, you're the fastest gun in the Wild West. You've been trained to instantly aim and shoot at anything standing in front of you. The enemy can't compare to your training. You are an operator. The only thing stopping you from overwhelming completely your enemy is that wall. All the danger is during the entering part. As soon as you're set and standing your ground inside, you're already winning. That's the mentality. That's the real tricky part when it comes to storming rooms. The entrance is narrow and the focus of attention. Upon entering, you're immediately seeking the next key point of pause. That's on the two sides of the entrance. This following tactic is meant to scan the whole area and give the team instantly insights about how to act next. You're not moving further from the two sides of the entrance. You don't know what's above you even. Maybe a ledge with a hiding insurgent? Even though you're a little stationary for that moment, you're still using what you can as some basic cover in between. In our case, we had a few columns in front of us to count on. We can wobble around our spots. This is the point where your sense of priority must be fully mastered. You're reducing the danger by staying near the entrance without blocking it. After all, if everything goes south, this is your only escape. Get out of your own way. I'm using numbers from 1 to 7 to show the path of your fire's priority. I say again, the two corners come first. Everything standing at the two scanning paths of fire are eliminated one by one. Then both weapons meet at a crossfire at the opposite corners of the front wall. That's your very short next stop, or key point. One team member covers the other, and as a two-headed and four-eyes monster, you have a full view of anything that could be a direct danger to you. This all-seeing and all-knowing crossfire stance is meant to protect you from hidden enemies behind cover within the room. If they pop out, they are done for. If they even try to raise a finger to toss something, it will be hit accurately. That's part of your training. You're at that level. It's expected of you. Just like a flock of birds on a journey, the two team members are reading each other's movements and they can synchronize. Now, if there are any blind spots remaining in that room, it's time to move and secure them too. It could be a turntable or the shape of the room. In our case, there are no significant covers left in front of us. The only potential dangers are the entrance of the small room and the left extension of the main room. Since the right side of the room is small with nothing interesting, it can be used as our back shield. Now all of our attention can fall onto the two remaining dangers. Although we're high and mighty, standing exposed without cover is not a good idea. It is only a needed risky step to push through. Our best cover, if we consider the surroundings, is behind the smaller room's wall. We'll cover each other and move towards that spot. My task will be to storm that final blind spot and fully secure the area. Andrew will cover me in case more hostiles arrive through the door. As soon as I join the fireteam element again, we will be ready for the next step. Now to address the strategy behind dealing with all the surrounding buildings. They are obviously potential shooting spots against us, from snipers to machine gunners. We are counting on the fact that it's not easy to even see us or determine if we're hostiles or friendlies, even during the commotion. The shape of the floor and the many obstacles in between provide enough cover and concealment for us to use. That's why we're choosing to do this during daylight. If electricity is out, a room looks very dark from outside. This effect kills natural vision and night vision. Thermal may have a chance, but it is limited too in this case, since it can't see through glass. It is a risk, but mainly the threat from the surrounding buildings and windows is too small in this case. So our best course of action is to fight in that room with determination, fast and precise. You are using any cover in between though, while you're moving around. In case you have to fight from this distance, find concealed cover and take careful clean shots. After every shot, change your hiding spot. If you have to pop out, use any unorthodox opening. Don't let them know what to expect. Now that the main room is completely secure, we're moving in a single file formation to minimize our target from the surrounding buildings, since we're moving closer to the windows. Once again, we're at the same position as we started. The exact same effects apply as before. It only changes once we storm in. It's a double staircase. One side goes down and the other one goes up a floor. We have silently decided to go up in this case. We are treating each space hidden behind anything as a point to storm. This makes us pause and rush in within a much shorter distance and time. One looks up, while the other one looks down. Covering all sides is what gives us the chance to fight off all surprises. With a few steps we're behind walls and we're protected. Mission accomplished. We are safe today.